You know, when I look in my dictionary at the word meditation, I find almost anything but a description of what it is that I teach. We call it Vedic meditation, but meditation is defined in English as a thought process, when in fact what we're teaching is an eyes closed method for transcending thought, going beyond thought entirely. We call it meditation because it's the closest thing in English to the appearance of someone who's practicing this. You're sitting in a chair comfortably with your eyes closed. There are many, many different things that are referred to as meditation in the Western vernacular. For example, people sometimes say that they're meditating when they're focusing sharply and with great difficulty on a singular focus. Why with great difficulty? Because it is our mind's nature always to move without effort toward anything that is more charming than whatever we're experiencing now. And to fight that nature is considered during concentration techniques to be a champion act. To be able to fight one's nature successfully as possible, to keep an intense focus on one point. And although concentration is very much hailed in the West as being, the holy grail of what we want to do, to be able to focus and concentrate, none of that is used in Vedic meditation. In fact, in Vedic meditation, we're teaching you how to defocus. As odd as that sounds, we're teaching you how to let your mind, like a leaf, wander inward effortlessly to the least excited state. And the idea of focusing the mind and how, the great mental muscles that it takes to keep the mind on one point, we consider to be a rather overrated phenomenon. The human mind is actually capable of thinking on many planes simultaneously. And it works best when it's allowed to do that. And so concentration, focus, these things are not used in the practice of Vedic meditation. However, it has to be said that once the mind experiences the bliss of being, the bliss of the least excited state, that awakening of that baseline happiness gives you a mind which, because it's already happy, will stay anywhere that you put it without any effort. A happy mind is already saturated with happiness. It doesn't have to look around for happiness. It is happiness itself. And so that mind, when you place it on a point, happily stays on the point without any effort whatsoever. Concentration, then, or capability of focus, is one of the outcomes of Vedic meditation, though attempting to concentrate is not used at all in this practice. Another method that is referred to as meditation are contemplative techniques. Contemplation means that you take up a particular subject, which might be the nature of humanity, or the nature of nature, or the relationship between humanity and nature, or the nature of things, or thinking about the state of being without quite experiencing being, but thinking about being. The processes of contemplation might extend to learning how to be a kind shepherd to your thoughts. This is very much, in my opinion, the background mentality and techniques, for example, like mindfulness. Learning how to shepherd thoughts and to be a gentle and kind and non-judgmental shepherd. These are contemplative techniques. And contemplative techniques do have their value. However, they do not create the experience of transcendence. They're not designed to create the experience of transcendence. They don't aspire to create the experience of transcendence. Transcendence is going right beyond thought entirely. And learning how to do that makes that process and that phenomenon, that proposition of experiencing the bliss of silence, an absolutely ridiculously simple phenomenon. There's another brand of style of manipulating the mind, which is referred to as meditation, which is hypnotic techniques. And essentially, hypnotic techniques rely upon the suggestibility of the one who's practicing them, where you take a suggestion to experience something that's not yet your reality, and to assert it on the mind as your reality. And so someone who's practicing an hypnotic technique might be thinking, I don't like cigarettes, I don't like smoking, I don't like, I'm not a smoker, cigarettes are yucky and all that. When actually they really want nothing more than a good smoke. So they're trying to hypnotize themselves into the psyche adopting a suggestion. And the greater suggestibility we have, the more effective techniques are that rely upon hypnosis. Hypnosis relies upon a high degree of suggestibility in order for it to work. Suggestibility is the scientific term. The everyday parlance word for suggestibility is gullibility. And so the more gullible you are, the more easily hypnotized you become. And we see this, in my opinion, to be the greatest social problem that exists in the world today: gullibility, the suggestibility of the collective, the ease with which people are drawn into the hypnosis of social conditioning. We could talk about that for years, but hypnosis and hypnotic suggestions are not used in the Vedic meditation practice. One uses a pulsation of sound, a bija mantra, in order to draw the mind to those more intrinsically charming layers, transcending which the mind experiences the unbounded bliss of being, a state beyond thought, which is the greatest benefit of the practice of Vedic meditation. It's a unique practice, absolutely unique in the way that it's done and in its outcomes. As a result of this analysis, we can see Vedic meditation does not use concentration by its own nature. It's not concentrative, nor is it contemplative. We're not using contemplation, nor is it hypnotic in its nature. No suggestion is being made to which the mind has to adopt this to its psyche. It's a unique category of meditative phenomenon and mechanics. Through the use of a pulsation of sound, the mind goes beyond thought entirely. And that category we would call the category of techniques that transcend activity. We're not using concentration, contemplation, or hypnosis. It's an innocent, effortless method where the mind touches on that state of being without effort.